Act 1. The problem, the impossible odds. There's a moment in life, a moment when you're lying to yourself so convincingly that you start believing the lie. A moment where comfort becomes your identity, excuses become your shield, and fear becomes your silent roommate. But imagine, just imagine, if the version of you that you've never met, the version hidden behind pain, behind failure, behind insecurity, suddenly woke up. Imagine if that version said, "Stand up, I'm not finished with you." This is the story of a man who did exactly that. A man who transformed himself from broken to unbreakable. From abused child to U.S. Navy SEAL. From 135-kilogram exterminator to elite ultramarathon runner. A man who simply refused to be defined by pain. This is the world of David Goggins, and this is the philosophy behind Can't Hurt Me. But before you think this is just another motivational story, let me warn you. This isn't a self-help fairy tale. This is a psychological war zone. And by the end of this video, you will understand two things. 1, you've been operating your whole life at 40% capacity. 2, and you don't have to live that way anymore. Now, let's step into the darkness where it all started. The broken beginning. David Goggins wasn't born a warrior. He wasn't born tough. He didn't come from a loving home filled with encouragement. He came from a house where fear lived in the walls. A house where his father beat him, his mother, and even his brother, where survival meant obeying a violent man's rules. Now pause for a second. Think about your worst childhood memory. Hold it for one moment. Now imagine waking up to it every single day. That was Goggins' life. But here's the pattern interrupt. He didn't grow up wanting revenge, strength, or greatness. He wanted something simpler, to feel safe, to feel enough, to feel human. And yet life wasn't done with him. The invisible enemy, identity. After escaping his father with his mother, things should have gotten better. They didn't. He struggled with learning disabilities. He stuttered. He felt stupid. Teachers dismissed him. Students made fun of him. He started shrinking into himself. Invisible, but hurting. This is where most people break permanently. This is where identity gets cemented. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not meant for success. But here's the first big insight of Can't Hurt Me. Your identity is just a story you repeat long enough to believe. Change the story, and you change your destiny. But Goggins didn't know that yet. He was still running from pain, still lying to himself, and that lie was about to catch up. Do you know your mirror moment? Let me ask you something strange. Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and truly seen yourself? Not your face, not your haircut, not your clothes, but you, the truth, the flaws, the excuses, the wasted potential. Most people avoid this moment their entire life. David Goggins walked into it by accident, and it changed him forever. The cockroach moment. Goggins was working as an exterminator, spraying restaurants in the middle of the night. Fat, depressed, ashamed, barely earning enough to survive. Eating fast food every day, watching TV for escape, living a life he knew was beneath him. And then, one night, he walked into a restaurant kitchen filled with hundreds of cockroaches. They scattered. He froze. Something snapped inside him, not because of the insects, but because he saw a reflection of his life, running, hiding, avoiding the truth. He went home, stared at himself in the mirror, and something terrifying happened. For the first time in years, he saw who he really was. Not the victim, not the overweight man, not the failure, but someone who could be extraordinary if he could stop lying to himself. This was the birth of what Goggins calls the accountability mirror. He wrote down every weakness, every flaw, every failure on sticky notes and slapped them on the mirror. Most people motivate themselves with positivity. Goggins motivated himself with the truth. Why? Because the truth forces change. Comfort preserves weakness. This is the first mental weapon of Can't Hurt Me. Radical honesty about who you are and who you're pretending to be. But this was only the beginning. He had the mirror. He had the truth. Now he needed a mission, and that mission was about to appear in the form of an impossible dream. The Navy SEAL pipe dream. One night, while flipping through channels, Goggins watched a documentary about Navy SEALs. These men were cold, hungry, exhausted, pushed beyond human limits. And he thought, if I can become one of them, I can escape this version of me. But here's the twist. He wasn't even close to the minimum requirement. He weighed 135 kilograms. He could barely run. He had heart issues. He failed school consistently. and he had only 3 months to qualify. Logic said impossible. Society said impossible. Even the recruiters laughed at him. But Goggins had discovered something deeper. Purpose is louder than pain, and dreams big enough make excuses irrelevant. This leads us to the second weapon of Can't Hurt Me, the 40% rule. Humans quit mentally long before their body is done. When you think you're finished, you're only at 40%. Goggins decided to test that theory, and the test nearly killed him. Act 2, rising tension. The transformation begins. The 3 month, impossible transformation. To qualify for the SEALs, he needed to lose more than 50 kilograms in 90 days. Not slowly, not safely, violently, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. He created a schedule so brutal most people wouldn't survive a week. He woke up early, ran 10 miles, biked 50 miles, swam for hours, lifted weights, studied for the ASVAB exam, and did it again and again. Ever wondered what obsession looks like? It looks like rewriting your entire identity through pain. But here's the cliffhanger. Just when things seemed to be turning around, his biggest enemy came back. Not his father, not bullies, not society, his mind. The war with the inner voice. There's a voice inside all of us. You know it. The one that whispers, "You're tired. This hurts. You can't do this. This is stupid. Just quit." Goggins heard this voice louder than ever. But instead of fighting it, he studied it. He realized the mind is like a bully. If you never fight back, it controls your life. So he created a new weapon. The cookie jar, a mental vault filled with his past wins. Every challenge he ever survived. Every moment he pushed through. Every time he didn't give up. When pain screamed, "You can't!" he reached into the cookie jar and answered, "Yes, I can. I've done worse." This is a psychological hack you can use today. But the stakes were about to get higher. He passed the entrance exam. He made it into SEAL training, but nothing could prepare him for what came next. The hell known as Hell Week. In Navy SEAL training, there's something designed to break you. 6 days, no sleep, freezing water, carrying boats, running miles, endless push-ups, endless pain, endless suffering. It's called Hell Week, and this is where most men quit, not because their bodies fail, but because their minds do. But remember, Goggins wasn't doing this just to graduate. He was doing it to kill the old version of himself. But before Hell Week even started, something horrifying happened. A medical issue nearly ended his SEAL dream forever. Act 2, the dark night, the breaking point, the rebirth. The medical nightmare before Hell Week. When a man trains for months, destroys his body, bleeds, sweats, cries, and rebuilds himself into a warrior, the last thing he wants is to be stopped by his own body. Hours before Hell Week, Goggins discovered something terrifying. His knees were swollen. His shins were on fire. Fluid was leaking inside his legs. Every step felt like walking on fractured bone. Doctors looked at him with a mixture of pity and surprise. "You shouldn't even be walking," they told him. "You definitely shouldn't be training." This is where most people would see a logical conclusion. Stop. But Goggins looked at the situation differently. Pain wasn't a signal to quit. Pain was proof he was still in the fight. And so, with legs swollen like balloons, he entered Hell Week. Hell Week begins where men break. Imagine standing in freezing water at 2 a.m., waves crashing into your chest, wind slicing your skin, instructors screaming in your ear. And this is just the first hour. Hell Week is chaos, misery, sleep deprivation, physical torture. But here's the strange part. It's not designed to build muscle. It's designed to break your mind. The instructors push until the human spirit starts to question itself. Why am I here? What am I doing? Who am I? Is this even worth it? Men quit not because they're weak, but because they lose the reason to continue. But Goggins had a reason. He wasn't building a career. He was building a new self. And then, something unexpected happened. The boat crew no one wanted. During Hell Week, trainees are divided into boat crews. Goggins, the only black trainee in his class, was placed in Boat Crew 2, a diverse group of men who weren't tall, weren't strong, and weren't ideal. They were mismatched, awkward, slower. The crew you'd bet against. And yet, they dominated every race. Why? Because while other crews fought, complained, or fell apart under pressure, Boat Crew 2 did the one simple thing most teams never do. They carried each other. Goggins understood a fundamental truth. Excellence is not a solo sport. Suffering shared becomes suffering conquered. This spirit fueled him, empowered him, transformed him. And yet, despite this momentum, Hell Week wasn't done with him. The body can only take so much, and his body was about to revolt. The third Hell Week, the legend is born. Most people don't know this. Goggins didn't go through Hell Week once, not twice, but 3 times. This wasn't dedication. It was obsession. After finishing Hell Week the first time, he was pulled out due to pneumonia. He returned, started the entire SEAL training again, completed Hell Week a second time with broken bones, then was forced to restart again due to medical issues. Finally, he entered Hell Week for the 3rd time. This wasn't physical training anymore. This was psychological warfare. Imagine going through the worst pain of your life and then willingly doing it again and again. Most people fear suffering. Goggins learned to fall in love with it. Why? Because suffering taught him the truth about himself. You are far more powerful than you think when pain becomes your teacher, not your enemy. But once SEAL training was done, you'd think the story ends. You'd think the man achieved greatness. But in reality, he was just getting started. Act 3, the rebirth, the new mission, the bigger war, the post-SEAL emptiness. After becoming a Navy SEAL, something strange happened. He felt empty, because success, when tied only to one mission, often leaves a vacuum behind. Goggins had built his body, built his discipline, built his toughness. But purpose? Purpose needed a new battlefield. And then, the universe delivered one. The call that changed everything. One evening, Goggins got a call. Can you help raise money for soldiers' families? He thought, sure, how much do they need? He expected a small number. But the number was huge. So big, it demanded something extraordinary. The solution? Enter one of the most brutal endurance events on Earth. The Badwater 135. 135 miles. Through Death Valley. In summer. Temperatures hitting 50 to the power of Cirque C. A race where elite runners collapse, vomit, faint, hallucinate. And Goggins had never run a marathon. Not even half. He went from 0 to ultramarathon. And what happened next became legend. The first ultramarathon, the body collapses. Goggins signed up for a 100-mile race to qualify for Badwater. He showed up with 0 proper training, 0 nutrition strategy, 0 experience. He ran with bottles of water and boxes of crackers. But here's the chilling part. He made it past 70 miles before the collapse. His kidneys started shutting down. He was urinating blood. His body swelled. He lost control of his bowels. His legs stiffened like metal rods. He could barely stand. Doctors told him to stop immediately, but he didn't. Why? Because Goggins didn't see pain as a signal to quit. He saw it as a signal to begin. He taped his feet, stood up, and kept running, not for glory, not for fame, but because in that moment, he realized something profound. The body breaks before the mind does. Only if you let the mind break first. This is the deep psychology behind Cant Hurt Me. You decide where your finish line is. Not your body, not your past, not your fears. Goggins finished the 100 miles, and the world changed its opinion of him forever. The inescapable lesson, suffering as a superpower. Most people try to avoid suffering. Goggins weaponized it. He learned something brutally rare. Suffering is the portal to self-mastery. Not because pain is fun, not because pain is noble, but because pain removes the lies you tell yourself. When you're exhausted, overwhelmed, broken, bleeding, and every excuse wants to take over, the real version of you appears. No filters, no masks, no ego, just truth. And in that truth, you find your power. But Goggins didn't keep this discovery to himself. He built systems, mental frameworks that anyone can apply. Now it's time for the most valuable part of this script. The 10 core mindsets from Cant Hurt Me. 1. The accountability mirror. You cannot change what you refuse to see. Write down your flaws, your weaknesses, your excuses. Put them where they stare back at you every day. Truth is painful, but so is staying the same. 2. The 40% rule. When you think you're done, you are only at 40%. 60% of your potential is locked behind mental resistance. Push past the first quit point. That's where your real growth begins. 3. Callous the mind. Just like hands get tougher with repeated friction, the mind gets tougher with repeated challenges. Discomfort is the gym where mental toughness is built. 4. The cookie jar. Store every victory you've ever had, every moment you didn't quit, every hardship you survived. Use this as fuel whenever pain attacks. 5. Eliminate the governor. Your mind places artificial limits on your potential. Remove these limits. Act before you feel ready. If comfort is the governor, action is the key. 6. Build an uncommon mindset. Do what others refuse to do, not to show off, but to become uncommon among the uncommon. Excellence isn't genetic, it's chosen. 7. Make suffering your teacher. Most people run from pain. Running makes pain stronger. Face it. Study it. Learn from it. Pain is the most honest mentor you will ever meet. 8. Dominate your inner dialogue. Don't let your mind speak by default. Rewrite the script. Replace "I can't" with "I must." Replace "this is hard" with "this is the path." 9. Break the mental myths. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to feel motivated. You don't need to be talented. You need only one thing: a decision. 10. Build a warrior spirit. A warrior is not a fighter. A warrior is someone who continues forward even when every part of them wants to stop. A warrior refuses to die an unlived life. The final transformation. The man WHO could not be hurt. David Goggins didn't become superhuman. He simply stopped allowing pain to define him. That's the message of Cant Hurt Me. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is essential. But quitting? That is optional. Goggins turned himself into the most mentally tough man alive, not by escaping suffering, but by walking straight into it and refusing to leave. And now, you have the frameworks, the tools, and the mindset to begin your own transformation. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when life gets easier, but now. Because here's the final truth. You don't need a new life. You need a new mindset. When your excuses die, your real potential is born. And when that happens, you become someone life can't hurt anymore.